Hi, Miss Dawn.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am doing very well today.
Well, good. Glad you could join us for this live stream.
Yeah, me
So,
too. I'm
and
excited.
welcome to Follower of One.
Thank you.
So tell people a little bit about yourself.
Oh, yes. The short version is I'm Dawn. I live near Seattle, Washington. I formerly was a pastor with my husband. We have 32 years of ministry between us. And then it's been 7 years ago now. We left the ministry and I started my business so that I could be home to raise my daughter. And that's been one of the best decisions I've ever made. We still, of course, miss some things about ministry, but we get an opportunity to preach here and there. And God is using us and has used me in incredible ways as an entrepreneur. And the business that I ended up starting was copywriting. So I've been in the marketing space now since 2019. That
Very
is
cool.
the quick version.
So, so, and just so you know, and you and I talked about this a little bit. To me, everything's ministry. So, there's no word for what Christians do if it's not work at a church. But in my mind, it's all ministry. So I'm excited about what you're doing. So tell us a little bit about how you got into copywriting. What prompted you to do that, and what were some of the early learnings that you had about how your faith made a difference in that space?
Yeah, great question. So back in this would have been 2017. So at that stage in our lives, my daughter was one, and we had our annual review with our regional leadership, and they essentially told my husband and I that we were failures because our church wasn't big enough. And then they demoted us, they transferred us, and they were going to force me to put my daughter in childcare, and I just couldn't do it. She was still so young. uh, I was of the opinion that I didn't have kids to have someone else raise them, and I went through a really, really dark season. My husband actually thought I was going to commit suicide. He was very scared for my life. I was having
Wow.
panic attacks visiting daycares because I just couldn't leave her there. And
Yeah.
it was a very stressful time. So I started Googling work from home because I was like, well, what could I do? Like, I have to make some money, but I want to be home with her. And in that same stretch of a few weeks, we actually met with the leadership because my husband was so concerned about me, and he didn't know like how to move forward, and they actually laughed at me. And the man who was in charge like crossed his arms and he's like, well, what would you possibly do if you didn't work for us? And that was my line in the sand, incredible hope moment. I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I don't know what the answer is, but I know that
It
God is
ain't
good
this.
and God will figure it out. So I wish God's timing was my timing and it happened overnight. It did not. It took 18 long months before we could get out of the situation. I had three stepkids and my daughter, so there's six of us total. And we both worked for the same organization, lived in a fully furnished house, and we're making about 2,600 a month
Wow.
cash. So yeah, so that's both jobs, cars, fully furnished home, like everything was provided for us. So to get out of that and have enough cash for even the down payment of renting a house was $5,000. So
Mhm.
where we live, so it was very it took a lot for us to get out and start a new life. And when the time
Yeah.
was right, God worked really fast. We found a position where I could basically work from home. Both of us worked for a nonprofit, got jobs with the same nonprofit. And when that happened, within 2 weeks, we found a place to live, got in cars, both had this job, and we moved and essentially rebuilt our lives in that 2 weeks. And I always say it took Herculean effort, but God just provided the way for us. And I learned so many lessons along the way. And once we had kind of that more stabilized situation, then I was really able to pursue the business, because when we were still in ministry, technically I wasn't allowed to make money anywhere else. So I had to do everything quietly and, learning the skills of marketing and copywriting. And so after we left and got the working from home with a nonprofit, that's really when I'd been learning how to build funnels, how to run Facebook ads, a little bit of copywriting. And then somebody like really explained copywriting to me. And I was like, you mean people will pay me just to write for them? Like, this is amazing. So that's really where it shifted. We left the church and ministry December, and then that following year is when I realized copywriting could be my like full-time thing. And then the rest was history. I hit 6 figures in 11 months, and then I doubled that my second year, and God was just amazingly good and faithful through all of it. It wasn't rainbows and unicorns the whole time, for sure, but He never failed us.
Very good. Very good. So now you have a business called Copy Queens Inc. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so after growing the copywriting business, I did a lot of done for you copy, and I still write for some of my clients, which I still love. I love getting to write. I ghostwrite books, and I write like webinars and email marketing and things like that. So that's one branch of Copy Queens Inc. And then the other side is, with the revolution of AI in the last couple of years, that has changed the landscape of copywriting for sure. It's brought about a lot of people using it, not in a good way, but when you know how to use it, specifically with custom GPTs, so the back end programming, and that's what I do a lot of now for business owners, is what I created called the voice print system, which is a team of custom GPTs, just like having a team of people to do different tasks in the business, like ads or email marketing or sales page copy. The AI can take care of it, but at a very elite level that sounds like the person and not like AI. And so that's a lot of what I do now, is install the voice print system for people so that they get the best of both worlds. They get copy that converts and sounds like them, but they get the speed of AI without having to, deal with contractors or freelancers and things like that.
Yeah. And I was actually reading, so you've got a couple of posts up on LinkedIn right now where you're talking about some of the brain science and the science behind some of this. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that's been another added layer to the voice print system that I found is super interesting. Another fellow copywriter and marketer in one of the masterminds that I'm in had kind of discovered this idea and was digging deeper, and we're in like a small pod together. And so he was sharing his results. And so then I started looking and researching it as well. And what he found is that all of the direct response controls that have made billions of dollars, like we're talking snail mail, from some of the greats, David Ogilvy, Eugene Schwartz, Gary Bencivenga, all names in the copy world that we would for sure know, they all follow the same pattern of triggering the 5 neurochemicals in the brain. So there's cortisol, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And they trigger all 5, and they trigger them in the same order. Every single control that's made multi-million or even $1 billion. And I was like, oh, that's so fascinating. I'm such a nerd. And I love science too. And I'm like, okay, so how can we then bring that into posts and sales pages to make sure that we're utilizing what we know in order to, I always say, as business owners, we are the answer to people's prayers. We solve problems, right? Whether you're, your theory and belief in that we are all ministers in what we do. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter what your business is. It doesn't have to be Christian. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what you do. You solve problems. You're an answer to people's prayer. And so my belief is that we have a duty then to communicate that message in a way that gets people to say yes. I mean, if you and I had the cure for cancer, we'd be out there screaming from the mountaintops of like, this is what
Mhm.
it is, right? Like, so, but how we communicate the message matters so much in getting people to actually take action, to believe in themselves enough to think it can work for them, and then
Mhm.
take action. And that's where those neurochemicals come in, which I am just fascinated by.
Well, and you and I are going to talk a little bit more about this offline, so I don't want you to expose everything, but I'm convicted by this because it was early on in after I started Follower of One that I was speaking with a lady who I'm not even sure was a believer. But we were talking about, she was talking about helping us make a sale. And I said, I'm not really selling anything. We're an online community. We're trying to mobilize marketplace Christians. And she said, Mike, you are making a sale. It's just people are buying your product with their time and their attention, not with their money. And I was challenged by that because since that moment, I've seen in the church, and we see it a lot in Follower One. We see people who come alongside the ideas that we have, but when it actually comes time to invest time or attention or energy or money in that effort, people kind of make the decision not to do that. It's very challenging. It's kind of interesting because we have churches that are trying to get people to do the marketplace mission trip, or we
Mhm.
invite people to do the marketplace mission trip. Almost always, 85% of the people that sign up for marketplace mission trip are not terribly engaged.
Mhm.
Um, and so these are the things that we're challenged by because most of us would like to be more engaged with our faith, but we're
Mhm.
not. And we're challenged even to force ourselves to do that when we're aware of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And that really, I mean, that's speaking to psychology and why we
Mhm.
know what to do, or where Paul says, I know what I do, but I do not do what I want to do. I do
Mhm.
what I don't want to
Exactly.
do. It's, these same chemicals, it goes down to, our beliefs and our identity, and action comes out of that. But we can also, there's this proven pathway of the process that goes through our brains that we're not even realizing, that then propels action. And, as a copywriter, I say we're always selling, whether it's selling
Mhm.
our kid on brushing their teeth or eating broccoli, or, to selling something to a fellow business owner. Like, we are always selling
Mhm.
ideas, um, even what's for dinner, or, whatever it is. So I don't think selling is bad whatsoever, but it
Yeah.
really does. I believe it's selling as serving, and it's an answer to people's prayers, right? So why not utilize what we know is happening on a chemical level in the brain to help
Mhm.
people make a decision that is, whether you're talking about Follower of One, where taking those actions are going to help us live our faith and help us, spread the message and the gospel of Jesus Christ. Again, it's that bridging that gap between what we know and actually getting us to do it. And, that comes down. I have done a ton of work with the subconscious mind and the beliefs that we have that develop from ages 0 to 8, and how then those beliefs influence our behavior. And I think that, it certainly can help us live out our faith when we look at those beliefs and how do
Mhm.
we put that into action in our lives. Because you're right, we all know it, just like we know we should eat vegetables and go for a walk every day. And we probably shouldn't have 2 pieces of chocolate cake or whatever it is, right? Like, we all
Mhm.
know this. The problem is we don't do it.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a topic of concern and a topic that's of interest to me because so many people experience joy from going to the next level in their faith, doing something intentional to get out of their own comfort zone and try something. We experience joy from that, but then immediately our flesh kind of comes against us to tell us, I hear everything Jesus suggests for me to do. I hear it as work,
Mm.
you know,
What if it
and
were play?
exactly. Exactly. And so and that's part of what's been so fun in this community for me is I have a number of friends now that we've connected. We mostly connect over Zoom or over social media in some way, shape, or form because people who have discovered this are not dense enough in my geography that where I can go find them at their meeting time and place. But
Yeah.
you know, people like Rick Johnson and Bonnie Mock and Chris Castro, who's listening in. I was trying to see who else was on the live stream
Edward
right
here.
now. We have, Edward's on here too. So Edward Alton. So hi, Edward. Glad you could join us. But all the people who are excited about their faith, that becomes contagious. It's almost like that's one of the chemicals that you're talking about that isn't really being ignited in any way, shape, or form by the copy I'm writing or the things I'm telling people. But that's one of the things that I want to examine. And so I'm excited at the idea because um, to me, this is the laying up treasure in heaven. We get to enjoy those rewards forever, Jesus says in Matthew 10:42. And so I want to spend more energy banking eternal rewards because I know those are not going to wear out or rust or those kinds of things. But and to me, that's an exciting challenge that we have, and that each of us have been given the opportunity to do that. I have a large kind of bias against the whole idea that you have to be on a church staff to be in ministry, right? We're all in ministry, and we've all been given this opportunity to participate in what Jesus is doing. And so that's why this whole idea of what you're teaching was so challenging to me.
Yeah, and I think I shared with you before that I've been able to impact thousands of more lives
Mm-hmm.
in being an entrepreneur than I ever did in one geographic location at a church. Now, we were there pre-COVID, so we weren't doing live streams or anything like that
Mm-hmm.
when I was there. But the opportunity I've had, whether it's doing trainings like this, being on podcasts, being in masterminds, I mean, thousands and thousands of lives. And then
Mm-hmm.
I write copy for people who have then sold their programs, many of whom have been Christian, to thousands and thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
I have a book that I ghostwrote that's coming out in August. It'll be in Barnes and Noble, and there's a big thing happening. And
This
that
is your book, or is this a go? I'm
I
sorry.
ghost wrote it for an amazing woman who she helps with women and weight loss, really, but it's not about weight.
Okay.
And so it's going to impact, I believe, millions of women's lives. We actually
Mm-hmm.
met this morning, and we're going to write a companion Bible study to the
Oh,
book,
good.
which I'm very, very excited about. But, someone like her where, yeah, I wrote it and was, the vehicle that's going to bring it into the world. And she got the big publisher deal and everything, but that's going to impact millions. So I get to be part of that ripple effect, right? Of those
Mm-hmm.
millions of lives who then they're going to pass it on to their daughters. And I mean, it's such a cool thing to be a part of that I never, ever would have done if I was, just in a small town church our church was around 40 to 50 people on a Sunday. So, I think I love your mission and this idea that we've always had this concept of like, oh, missionaries and pastors are the real workers for God. I'm like, no, everybody, there's all parts of the body. We all have a place, and God can use us in ways that will just be beyond our imagination. if we
Yeah.
let him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't even know if I told you the story, but years ago, I was having lunch with a pastor who was trying to get me to go on a mission trip because he said when people go on a mission trip, that's when they get it. And I said, well, I think I already get it, and I drive 30 miles a day to work. How come that doesn't count? So,
Yep.
but I think that's what, I think that's what God's waking us up to, is that we've all been given an opportunity to take part in the work that he's doing and to experience the joy and the rewards that are associated with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's very cool.
Every
And
day.
so what's next for you? What are you excited about that's in the future besides this book that you're working on? What else?
Yes. Yeah. So the book I'm working on that I interviewed you for is I have this vision for entrepreneurs and business owners to have a guidebook or a handbook for how to grow and scale a God first business. Like, how do we be Jesus in a particular type of marketplace as business owners, specifically because I've met many Christian business owners through this journey and had lots of conversations about wealth and spirituality and God's guidance versus the gurus, following marketing strategy and things like that. And just the secular marketplace can be really difficult to navigate as a business owner. My favorite professor in college always said the hardest part of the Christian life is it's so daily. And we have that. And then I think the hardest part of being an entrepreneur is it's so daily, right? Like staying consistent and showing up, but doing it in a way that honors God. And that's like, saying, hey, God, like, what do you have for me today? Where can you lead me, guide me, grow this business? Be abundant, all the things. So that's my vision for the book. So I am working on that and interviewing business owners for that book. So I'm really excited for that. And then I really see an expansion of the voice print system to business owners, specifically those of faith who want to have authority in the marketplace, who want to share their message in a bigger way, but really need that help, that assistance that AI can bring when it's trained well and when it's done right. So that's what I'm really excited about for this year.
Very cool. Very cool. Your website is Copy Queens Inc., and we'll put that in the chat. And I'm just excited about what's going on too. I'm excited about the things that you're teaching us and doing. Hopefully we can get you on a marketplace mission trip and you can give me some thoughts and ideas about all this stuff as well. So
I signed up this morning, I think, as
cool.
long as I did it right for the next cohort.
Good. Yeah. So the it's exciting to me because I really do believe that that's what, God has kind of got us into a space where we're trying to wake up a group of people to realize that they have the power and authority to do something. And we need to step into that. We need to, that's the purchase decision we need to make, is we need to take some of our time and our attention and our resources and go do life a little differently so that we can experience that.
Amen. The phrase God gave me was anointed authority. I was like, oh, that's big. If we were all walking in our anointed authority, can you imagine the impact we would have?
Yeah, I think it's exciting. I'm excited because I have my dream is believers in the marketplace, all basically representing the same idea that following Christ changes the way you live. And, people can ask us about that. I had a great conversation this morning with someone who felt like in the Western church that we were not very engaged because we weren't out making disciples like he was used to being out making disciples when he was overseas. And I tried to explain to him that in a modern workplace, in the Western work world, that the average person in the Western work world doesn't have the authority or the permission to engage coworkers in topics related to faith. We don't have that permission already granted to us. We take that permission when we have a short-term relationship with someone, but it's very difficult to take that permission. Just assume that you have that permission when you're with someone that you work with, because they're paid to be there to do one thing and you're paid to be there to do one thing. And it isn't really necessarily evangelizing them. And so it's just an interesting perspective, but it'd be great to mobilize more believers in the workplace. So I'm grateful for your service in all of this.
100%. The more we're on fire, the more the fire will spread.
So,
and we need people. We need people in every profession and every career. You know, Jesus didn't just hang out in the church.
That's right.
Talking to the Pharisees, right? He was out walking around at the shores of the lake. You know, we've talked about this.
Exactly.
But I'm super passionate about being in those other places, and we need all people in all those places, and then to be used where God puts us and be that light.
Yes. Well, I'm very excited. I'm grateful for you joining Follower One and checking this out, and hopefully we could get the and we'll get the version of this. This recording will be available here in the community. It will also be available on YouTube, and we will share it a little more, and then you can download a copy of it and share it wherever you'd like as well. I'm very excited. I hope people go to your website, check out Copy Queens Inc. She has an opportunity there if you're interested, so you can learn more about that and learn more about her ministry and her business. I'm excited to see how God's going to use all of this. So thank you very much for doing this today.
Yes, thank you for having me and letting me share a bit of my story.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. If you're checking this out on a recording, check the show notes for a link to her website, Copy Queens Inc. And thank you very much, Dawn. It's great seeing you today.
You're welcome.
All right. Take care, everyone.